All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. It's nice seeing you again. We have an exciting episode today. We are thrilled to speak with our guest, Melissa Pierce, who has a fascinating story about her journey to widowhood that we are anxious to share. So, Melissa, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate being here with you too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, we know you're busy, especially with some of your undertakings right now as you use your experience and your story to help other widows, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But first, we just kind of want to go way back and back to the late '90s, early 2000s.
Mhm.
That's when you met your husband, is that right? And what
Yeah.
was that story? Tell us that story. How did you meet?
Yeah. So Dave and I met, I think it was, yeah, late 90s through his sister. I was really good friends with his sister. And we were in a position where I needed a roommate, and then Dave needed a roommate because our roommate situations fell apart. And so Dave's sister said, well, meet my brother, which I had met him very briefly one time before. He was a musician and he was playing in a band around Portland, Oregon, which is where I live. And I went and saw his show. And so I met him very, very briefly at his show. And he did not really remember me because he was fixated on my really tall, beautiful blonde friend
Of course.
who was standing right next to me. So he didn't quite recall who I was. But we ended up meeting. He was friendly. He was nice. We thought, okay, well, let's just be roommates. And I was dating somebody and he was dating somebody else. So we started out as roommates and as friends for a couple of years. I even fixed him up with some of my friends. So we really got to know each other in this really kind of organic way. So I got to experience, he was clean. He put the toilet seat down. He was very considerate. So I got to learn all these things about him, before we got romantic. And then,
And
um,
seeing how he treated his dates and treated other
right.
women, and that's
Yeah.
nice.
And
Yeah.
his mom, and he was close with his mom and his sister. And, so he was just a really, really good guy. We became each other's best friends.
Yeah.
And
Were you
then
working or were you in school or what
I was
what were you both
working. We
doing?
were we
Yeah.
were both working.
Okay.
He was a teacher in one of the suburbs of Portland, and then um, I was working. So yeah, we were just kind of going about our lives. And
Did he stay a musician?
no, well, he was a musician throughout his teaching career until we ended up um, having our kids in our
That's
lives, and then
wise.
it's like too much, the late nights, the being in pubs and bars and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it just wasn't conducive to family life. But
Yep.
yeah,
I
he
had to
he
do the same
played.
thing.
Yep, he played bass guitar, and well, he could play anything. He was a music teacher and a math teacher,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah,
Did he
he's kind
sing
of
too?
he sang. He wasn't really the lead singer. He would do like
Yeah.
background vocals and stuff,
Right.
but he wrote music.
Wow.
He wrote a song for about me in his, for his band. So but
Nice.
Fun.
this is when we started getting romantic with each other.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
at that point I moved out because it's really hard to date somebody you're living with.
Yeah.
So then I moved out, and um then we just continued our romantic relationship until we got married
Yeah.
in 2000. So December 2000 is when we got married.
Nice.
And then we were a little bit older, like we were in our mid 30s, and we wanted a family, so
Mhm.
it just wasn't happening in,
Yeah.
the natural order of things. And
Mhm.
so we went through some testing and found out that we weren't able to conceive. So we wanted a family. We didn't care how we got our family, and so we
Right.
started exploring the various, like the foster care system, international adoptions, all the things. And um, we ended up, meeting and adopting our two little boys in 2005, and they're brothers, and they were 5 and 7 at the time. So
Oh, wow.
um, that was quite an adventure. We really got to learn about each other as we're going through the process of adopting, because they're like they should. They're background checking you. They're we're going through trainings. We're going through, we're writing, surveys and questions and putting together picture books. So we're really able to really talk about how we're going to parent before we even met our kids. So we really had a good established, um, I don't know, relationship and how we were going to parent. So it was kind of easy, not easy, it was challenging, but to kind of move into this being parents to these little boys. And it literally happened overnight. So,
Wow.
Really?
yeah, it wasn't supposed to happen that way. We had a social worker through the state, and our kids did too. And so there was this plan that we would meet them and then slowly integrate them into our lives over like a period of 3 weeks. Well, that didn't happen. That happened immediately. We met them on a Sunday and they came home with us Sunday night. And
Wow.
yeah, it was, we had to make lots of phone calls like, is this okay? But we were certified and all that stuff, certified foster parents at that point.
Right,
But
right.
Yeah.
it happened really, really quickly. I didn't have cereal. I didn't have toothbrushes. I didn't have anything ready. And so just we had beds. So we put them to bed and I just ran to the grocery store and called my mom and said, "Oh my, you're not going to believe it. This is happening right now." So I don't even know what kind of cereal they like. So I just
Yeah.
got a bunch of cereal, got their toothbrushes, and um, then the next day I took them to school and then I got their clothes and all the things. So it happened super quick. Super,
Were
super quick.
they living locally, like with another
Hmm.
foster family?
Yes, they were
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were, so they were 5 and 7 and they were pretty much in and out of the system for a good, like my youngest, basically most of his life up to
Yeah.
the time he
Yeah.
was 5. So, they were ready for some permanency and we were ready to have them. And it was one of those meant to be like the minute I saw
Sure.
them, like
Yeah.
these are my kids.
These are my children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. That's
Wow.
it.
That's great.
They're
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
kids. So,
It
so
almost
that
doesn't
was,
give you enough time to freak out. It's just like,
mm-mm.
okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, that anticipation piece, it's like, oh, okay, I'm a mom. Sunday night, I'm a mom. You
Yeah.
know, this just
It's not
happened.
that different from giving birth, frankly. It's
Right.
like, oh, here we go. And I'm
Yep.
going home. What in the
Hmm.
hell am I? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy.
That is crazy.
And it was just, yeah, I just didn't have time to really, I was in business
Yeah.
mode. I could do the things,
Yeah.
get
Right?
them to
Yeah.
school, get them registered at a new school, I'll
Yeah.
get the bedding, get all the things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it was pretty amazing. And we were living in Portland at the time, but Dave is from Eastern Oregon.
Mm.
And so we, let me see, we had adopted them. It was about a year and a half into the adoption, and we decided to um, move to the eastern portion of
Mm.
the state.
Mm.
Dave, like I said, was a music educator, but he was teaching math at the time, and he really, really wanted to go back to his love of educating
Mhm.
kids and music. And so there was an opportunity that came up in one of the schools in Eastern Oregon for a full-time music teacher, which is pretty much unheard of.
Right.
Yeah.
So we jumped at the chance, and me being the city girl, I'm like, okay, let's try
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
living in a
Yeah.
small Eastern Oregon town. But so we moved in 2007. So we had about 5.5 years as a family of four, as a
Yeah.
little family, until Dave died very
Yeah.
suddenly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in a second, but just
Yeah.
I would imagine you probably went into overdrive trying to find ways to connect and do all those things with the boys. What did you do? How did they respond to you? Did you do some fun things? Was it right into school and you couldn't do anything, or how did that work?
Uh, it was in March, so we had 3 more months of the school year. So I was driving them. We lived across town from where they were going to school. So
Mm.
Right.
I arranged it with my work, which they were amazing. I had to come in late because I had to take them across town to school,
Mhm.
And then I had to leave early so that I could pick them up and then take them back home. So we did that for the remainder of the school year, about 3 months. And then, we loved to camp, we loved to fish. Actually, I say Dave loved to camp and Dave loved to fish. I went
Yep.
along because it was kind of
Way
sort
to
of
clarify.
fun. Yeah. I was willing to go along, but I can't
Yeah,
put up a tent to save my life. But
yeah,
we just did, they were very active little boys. So we got them into baseball, basketball, soccer, anything to get
yeah,
their energy out. So we were
yeah.
just,
Just a
you know,
normal family of
just
four.
normal,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
doing all the things that little kids do, and our world revolved around them.
yeah,
Everything kind of stopped. Like I said, Dave was a musician and he played in a band. Well, that kind of stopped because
yeah,
you can't work full time and be a parent and also be in a band
Do
late at
gigs at
night.
night.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
so
Did he
but
struggle with that decision of,
I don't think so. I mean, he'd been playing so long around town, and he still played music, so it's not like he stopped playing music. But I think that's what was so appealing to him, to take this job as a music educator, so that he could still continue that creative,
yeah,
Mhm.
piece of him. Um, so yeah, we just, weekends were. I don't even remember. I don't remember life before the kids.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah,
hard to
Right.
right.
remember. It's like, how did I spend my time? Because I literally have no time now.
Yeah,
So, yeah, like we went to
yeah.
Disneyland. We did all
Oh,
the things. We wanted to give
nice.
them this, like we knew their story. We had
Yeah,
the 4-inch thick file from, foster care. We could assume lots of really traumatic things happen in their
yeah,
lives. So
Mhm.
we
yeah,
really wanted to make their lives you know, golden and wonderful and have them feel
yeah,
safe and secure. And that didn't happen overnight. It
No.
yeah,
took it took it took a few months for them to kind of acknowledge that we're mom and dad and to call us that, because they were
Mhm.
calling us by our first names.
mm,
But then we just had a talk with them that, if you're comfortable with this, we're your mom and dad. If you want to call us mom and dad, we'd love that. And so they started doing that. And
nice.
so yeah, I mean, a lot of this was kind of just going by our gut too,
Yeah,
like, and then
as every parent does,
yeah, right?
regardless of how their kids come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two steps
Yeah.
forward, one back, two steps forward. One
Yeah,
Yeah,
back.
I know.
yeah.
The only thing is I can't change a diaper. I've never really changed a diaper. So it's funny, like people will talk to me
Okay.
like, "Oh, here's my kid, go change their diaper." I'm like, I have no like I don't know how to do that. My
Yeah,
kids came before, they were done with the diapers. So, some of those things like, skipped from, 0
yeah,
to 5 years old,
I
those
would be sad about
developmental
that.
things.
yeah, yeah,
No, right? I
yeah.
know. I know. But yeah.
Well, that's so you're living life. You've got this family of four. You're doing all the things, going to Disneyland, camping,
Hmm.
baseballs, whatever, and literally overnight, your
Hmm.
life changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, walk us through that. What happened?
Yeah. So again, we were in Eastern Oregon. It was a very snowy winter, January. We had so much snow. But we were able to, get around. But um, we had gone out with some friends Friday night, pizza with our youngest. Our oldest was in Portland, so about 250
Mm,
miles away at a
mm,
Lego robotics,
mm.
I don't know what you call it, a tournament, I guess.
Yeah,
Wow.
And so our youngest and Dave and we had met some friends for pizza the night before, and we came back, just snow, snow, snow. It was really hard to get up our road, but we came back and Dave's like, I just don't feel that good. I feel like I'm coming down with a chest cold. I'm gonna go to bed early. It was like 7:30 or 8. And I'm like, okay. So he kissed me on the cheek because he didn't want to get me sick. Went into our bedroom, and then Bryce and I just watched a movie. We just went in and I fell asleep. And then the next morning, I wake up because Dave was supposed to help coach our youngest basketball team. And it was time to get up. And normally he lets the dog out and puts some wood in the fire. None of that was done. So I go into our room and he's unresponsive. And um, I'm shaking him and I'm trying to revive him and with CPR and all the things. And I get on the phone with 911 and they're trying to run me through how to do CPR, and I already knew how to do it. I was doing it, and he was dead. He just did not wake up that morning.
Hmm.
So, and every night we always slept together. So I'm not really sure. There's a lot of guilt and stuff I had to process and move through. Like if I would have been in the bed, could I have saved him, or all that stuff. But I just, it's not helpful to go there because it's not what happened, and I
Right.
can't change any of that. But that was a process to move through. But so it took like almost an hour for the sheriff and the ambulance to get to us
With all the snow,
because
yeah.
all the snow and ice and everything. It was horrible. It was horrible. And then I had to call my oldest and let him know, and my brother and his family were there to pick him up, and so they were able to um, and pick up my mom, and so they were all traveling across the state, and they got there that evening. So I had other family with me. Dave's family was from the eastern part of the state, so they
Oh
were all
yeah, that's
there.
what I was going to ask. So his
Yeah.
family was
Yeah, his
available. Yeah.
family and our friends were able to get to us. But yeah, it was just shock. Like I couldn't believe
Yeah.
like this doesn't happen. How does this happen? He's 46 years old. He had gone to got his physical several weeks prior and he was fine. So um yeah.
Did
So
you pursue like an autopsy to ever try and figure out what happened?
yeah, so here's the thing. So this is the crazy thing. I don't know how this process works. I don't know how. So I'm at the funeral home. We're making arrangements. This happened on a Saturday. I'm there Monday making arrangements. And so the funeral director is talking about embalming him. And I'm like, well, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Like, isn't there an autopsy? How do they do that? And he's like, no, you'll have to pay for that out of pocket because the medical examiner did an examination, not an autopsy, on him and determined um, basically it's undetermined how he died, but it wasn't suspicious or anything like that. Um, so I would have to pay for it out of pocket, which is several $1,000s, and they would send his body to either Portland, Oregon, or Boise, Idaho. Those were the places that could do autopsies. So I'm making these decisions very quickly on the fly. I've got family members around me, but they can't tell me what to do. And I was paying for the funeral on my credit card anyway, which was several $1,000s. And then I thought, well, he doesn't share genetic material with my kids. So if it was something that could be passed down,
Right.
there's no that it's not passed down to my kids. So
That makes
just
sense.
on the fly, I'm like, okay, I guess so. It's like I'm not gonna do that, pay for an
Was the
autopsy.
family, were they offering opinions about do it, don't do it? Or were they
Not
offering help
really.
or no?
I think everybody was kind of in such a state of shock, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't actually recall either asking for advice, but we were all in the same room together as this information was been given. But I don't recall anybody saying yes or no or whatever. It's just everyone's kind of looking to me to make the decisions.
Make the decision, yeah.
So I did that. It's not ideal. I don't know specific like his death certificate has a primary cause that says undetermined illness, secondary cause that says sleep apnea, and a third cause says respiratory illness. So
Interesting.
and that was determined by the medical examiner. So I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, in the end,
Yeah.
it doesn't make a difference. And I think
No.
you're right. I mean, the fact that there's no genetic material, there's no, like, that would really be the only reason.
Yeah.
Other than your own curiosity, but at that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
you're in that place of, I don't even know what time it is. How am I going to I can't even process what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And during that time, I'm also having health issues of my own because my heart is not beating in it's kind of an arrhythmia of some
Arrhythmia.
kind. So I leave the funeral home and I call my doctor's office like, hey, this is what happened. Here's what's going on with me. And she's like, get in here right now. And then I was sent up to the hospital for an EKG. So this is while I'm trying to plan a funeral and
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
receive
And your
all these people
boys
and
are
like,
probably terrified.
yeah, well, they didn't know that I was having
Oh, they
these
didn't.
health
Okay.
issues. I only told a few people. So I went up there, got an EKG. They found some irregularities. So I had to wear a monitor for that week. That week that after he died, and planning the funeral, going to see him in the funeral home, doing the memorial service. I've got a heart monitor on this whole
Got that
time.
big chest, the chest
Yes.
wrap thing.
And
Yeah.
so that was insane, but I'm fine. I got several checkups afterwards and tests and all the tests, and they just said it's, of course, shock and
Stress
hormones
relevant.
and cortisol and everything that's running through my body is, um, causing my heart to skip beats. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm like, I'm gonna die too. My kids are gonna
Right.
not have parents.
Uh,
That was a nightmare. Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Well, let's jump back to from the time you were married. You start having conversations about starting a family.
Hmm.
You start going through that process, and you end up adopting. But in that period, did you have any conversations about, okay, let's start just thinking about the future, let's retirement, savings?
Who's going to watch our
What if,
kids?
what
Yeah.
if, did you play that what if game, and what are we going to do? Did any of that conversation happen?
None of that conversation
None of
happened.
it did, huh?
None of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We, I think we were young and you feel, late 30s, early 40s, you feel like, oh, well, this is going to happen,
Yeah.
when I'm
You haven't even lived
70,
half your
80.
life yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like, so we didn't even talk about even our thoughts around burial or anything like that. None of that was discussed. We had no will. We had nothing set up for who's going to take care of our kids if something happens. None of that
Yeah.
was ever discussed. Yeah.
Was through your work or his work, was there any life insurance plan in place?
Yeah, I had a small plant through my work. Um, just a real for me, I had a huge policy. And then
Yeah.
I think they gave us like a free thing for your spouse and a
Right.
free, without going for a physical. So that's the only thing we
Right.
had set up. He had
Yeah.
no life insurance.
Yeah.
We had no outside life insurance other than the policy I had on myself through my work. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
So the
yeah.
school district didn't even have
They
any
had a
kind of,
real small, I didn't even know about it. One of the teachers had to tell me like a month or so later that I think that through the teachers union, they had like $1,000
yeah,
policy. So no,
Yeah.
there may have been ways to sign up for something, but we never
you
did.
just didn't.
He never
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So no life insurance. Hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's I'm sorry that you went through that, but it does um speak to the importance of taking advantage of whatever your employer might offer, right?
Hmm.
And if you find yourself in a situation like you did, where suddenly your partner's gone, oftentimes you're so busy planning funerals and taking care of
Hmm.
your own family and your own health that you forget that maybe there's some benefits that I could collect from his
Hmm.
employer. For you, I mean, you said it wasn't very much, $1,000, but
Hmm.
maybe there was a retirement plan, or maybe there were, other benefits somehow. And so, that's one of the things we talk to families a lot, is just understand what it is that your employers
Hmm.
offer, so that, at least you have, a sense of knowing that, is there something there, or is there not?
Yeah.
And then you can plan accordingly.
Yeah. I think just culturally, we don't like to think or talk about
Of
death.
course. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, you two know that.
Mhm.
So I think it was just a really uncomfortable thing to think about. And that's why we didn't really have any legal plans in place. Like I did have something through my work, but that was if I died.
Yeah.
Um, I thought I just kind of assumed that the school district or you know, him being a teacher, he would have some kind of life insurance. He did have a retirement plan, so um, I was able to, move in, tap into that,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
and then also, what do you call it? Invest. Take that and invest it. But I didn't know. People had to help me. Like I had
Yeah.
no idea what to do, or
Yeah. And
they.
as far as the two of you with both your incomes together,
Mhm.
like were you both contributing sort of 50-50 to the household
Mhm.
income, or was his
Mhm.
income more, or was yours more? How
Mine was a little bit more. I
okay.
was working for a Fortune 500 company. I was working remote, but
Yeah.
so unfortunately, teachers don't make a
Right.
Right.
ton of
Right.
money. So, but it
Right.
was roughly it was pretty much 50-50. So,
Okay.
I to pay the whole mortgage though. I
Right.
still I had to pay 100% of the mortgage. Half
Right.
of that
Yeah.
didn't go away. So I still had a lot of expenses, for our
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you didn't have any legal documents.
Mm-mm.
Did that cause any problems? Like, did he own anything that was just in his name? That
Hmm.
okay, you had to go through that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I had to. So at first, I started working with a financial planner because I had to get all the documents set up and fill them out properly to move his retirement over into my investments or whatever
Mhm.
my
Right.
um and so I had to get an attorney.
Mhm.
And filling out that paperwork is ridiculous. If you just check the wrong box, it can cost you like thousands in taxes, which I
Yep.
did.
Mhm.
I checked the wrong box. I don't even know
Ugh,
what box I was checking, but I ended up getting taxed very heavily the following
ugh,
Mhm.
year. Um, but I ended up getting an attorney. I had to open up probate.
Yep.
There were some debts that he had. I have to say though that he had some student loans and they forgave. I didn't even ask for it, but they forgave all of his student loans. Which I just got this letter, like, because I think he owed like 15-20,000 in student loans still,
yeah,
and I didn't even contact them yet, and they just I don't know, somehow got word from maybe the school district or something, and so they
yeah,
forgave
They forgave it.
yeah,
his student loans. But yeah, so I had to go through the whole, hire an attorney,
Mhm.
um, do all this, probate stuff, which,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
and at that time that's the time when I set up a will, set up a trust, talked to folks who I thought would be good guardians for my kids, got their
hmm
permission, so I got everything
Good for you.
yeah.
set
Good
up
job.
because I'm like this, because if something happens to me,
Right.
like I can't, those poor kids,
Yeah,
they have lived enough, you know, been through so many challenges and trauma already before they came to us. Like I
Yeah.
need to make sure that they are set. So I got everything through that same attorney that I opened up probate with. I used him to um, set up everything I needed to
yeah.
make sure they were taken care of.
Oh, good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
We know so many widows who have been
Hmm.
through the exact same thing, not prepared, and they still don't do it.
Hmm.
For
There's still
themselves.
such for themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's still so much fear surrounding an inevitable event. Like it's it's the only thing we have to
Hmm.
do when we are born is
Yeah.
die. Like it
Right.
should not be, it's shocking, but it should not be surprising.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like we are very um what's the word, like black cats under the, just not suspicious. Anyway, if you talk about it, it will happen.
Oh, yes. Yes, you're
You know what
right.
I
So
mean?
let's bury our head in the sand then. So, because
Right.
it won't happen. Yeah.
superstitious.
Superstitious.
Yes.
That's the word.
Yes.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And
if we
if we
say
don't
it
talk
out
about it,
loud,
then it
it's going
won't
to
happen.
happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's
exactly.
just, we've got to stop doing that. And we've
Mm.
got to normalize the death process, the
Yeah.
the after death
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I'll
it's
tell
it's
you
okay.
what it did for me is it really delayed my
Your
grieving
grief.
process
Hmm.
because I was so caught up in doing the business
Right.
side of of Dave's death, just the paperwork and um, getting my kids taken care of and trying to figure out what bills and how to sell this vehicle, but my name wasn't on the DMV
Right.
title,
Mm-hmm.
all these things. It really delayed my understanding and processing of what had happened. It delayed
Mhm.
it for a good, I didn't really truly understand what happened until like 6 months later, like really
Wow.
coming to terms with this is real. I mean, this
Yeah.
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not in the frame of mind to be making really good educated decisions
Right.
either,
Right.
you
Right.
Yeah.
know, because I'm in under so much stress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And widow
Mhm.
fog, I mean, that's just
Mhm.
a natural emotional occurrence. It's, your brain is protecting itself from the trauma.
Yeah.
And oh, now I've got to make really important financial and legal decisions
Mhm. Mhm.
under duress like
Yeah.
this.
And I didn't eat today.
Right.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Right.
so you're
Yeah.
trying to do all these things and you're not at your best.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I was not operating. I was really in zombie mode. I was just trying to get my kids fed, get them to school, uh, get their homework done, get them to bed. And
Rinse and
then,
repeat.
yeah, exactly. So for me to be making costly decisions, not when we go back to when we talk about the autopsy, I do wish I would have just said, yeah, let's spend the several $1,000s because this is gonna, at least I'll know. And, hindsight, I did beat myself up a lot over
Right.
this whole thing. I didn't need to do that. But, again, I can't change what had happened, but it's not ideal to be making big, heavy decisions.
Yeah.
So whatever can be taken care of beforehand,
Yes.
um, even funeral planning. Like I didn't know how he wanted to be buried.
Right.
Right.
I had to make that decision. I had him cremated. It took me 3 years to figure out where I was going to put him in this earth or
Yeah.
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
I talked about it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
yeah, yeah. So,
So
Well,
have you made that decision for yourself?
yeah, yes. And I know people know my wishes. My wishes
Okay, good.
okay.
are down. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute just about your kind of mental, emotional, spiritual state. Obviously,
Hmm.
you're busy doing, like you said, the business side of death, taking care of that. Um, either during that time or even maybe after when it kind of all hits you and you begin to grieve. What what was your spiritual sort of state of mind? Were you a spiritual person growing up? What what were your thoughts about death just in
Hmm.
general, and how did that impact your grieving process?
Hmm. Yeah, I grew up Catholic, so I was raised Catholic, but I moved away from the church in my adulthood. Um, I have spiritual beliefs. I'm not really tied to any type of religion, but I have to say, like several years before Dave died, I was really questioning like what does happen after you die? Like I'm not sure if I believe in a God or a supreme being. I was just really kind of wavering, like I don't know what's happening here. But when he died, it was very clear to me that there is more than us. There is whatever we want to call it, universe,
Hmm.
Yeah.
God, spirit. And that looks different to me than anybody else, but it's something
Right.
that provides me a lot of comfort.
Mhm.
I believe in Dave. I believe he is around. I
Hmm.
believe his spirit didn't go anywhere, didn't just end. He's just the fact that I'm talking about him and thinking about here. He's still, with
Right.
us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel a really deep connection to him. And even I'm remarried.
Yeah.
And I still feel he's the father of my kids.
Right.
Yeah.
I talk to him a lot, especially when my kids are struggling. Like, it's your turn. I
Yeah.
am
Yeah.
really tired. You
Help
Yeah.
need
me
to
out
do
here.
something here.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes I get some answers from him. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
guess I guess in a nutshell, that kind of describes my spirituality. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just yeah, he's not gone. He's physically not here, and I
Mm,
can't touch him or talk to him or hear him, but um, I still feel him.
Yeah.
And I,
right.
my dad died. My grandma died. I mean, there's people who have died very close to me, and I don't feel them in the way that I do Dave.
Mhm.
So
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Do you have any kind of symbol or sign that you connect with him that you see, or um when you see, like, a lot of people see a dragonfly and that's their symbol of he's around. Do you have anything like
hmm
that?
Oh yes. So musician. He's a big
Right.
musician. His genre of music was funk. So his band used to play covers and originals, but one of them that was just would get everybody on the dance floor was Brick House by the Commodores.
Hmm.
So whenever I hear that, and I hear it in just the weirdest, randomest places, like this should not be playing right now because this isn't, it's not the time or place. But
Yeah.
whenever I hear Brick House by the Commodores or just any rendition of that, um, that's him. Or just music. Sometimes I'll just
Right.
be listening to my playlist, or if I'm listening to the radio, and if I'm moving through something really difficult or challenging, or just anything, like a song will pop in that either was important to both of us, or like a lyric will come in that's I feel like is a message
Yeah.
from him. So yeah.
That's totally
Yeah.
mine too. That
Yeah.
is so funny.
Is it Brick
Yeah. I mean,
House? Brick House by
no,
the
not brick
Commodores?
house,
No.
but music. Like the
Yeah.
first time, a couple weeks after my husband Dave
hmm
died, I was like, where, like, what's it like? Where are you? Like, what's going on over there? Are you okay? Is, like, what's happening?
hmm
And the thing that popped into my head was the Lego movie song, Everything is Awesome.
Yeah.
And so I get lyrics all the time,
hmm
like, what am I gonna do with these kids? And then some lyric will, I'll turn on the radio and it's like some song. It happens all the time.
Yeah, yeah, it's really comforting. It's really
Yeah.
comforting. I think there's a lot of signs and synchronicities out there if you're open and
Open.
willing
Yeah.
to see them or experience them.
Yeah.
So are you a musician too?
I am.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay, what do you play? What do you do?
I'm a singer. I'm a voice teacher and
Oh, okay.
piano player and all the things.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's that music
So he was
connection.
not at
Mm.
all, but knows that I am. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
knows that that's what would connect with
It's your
me.
love language.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind
Mhm.
of fun.
So
Mhm.
once you kind of get through this 6 months, you sort of figure out the business of death, and you start to grieve, and you get back into kind of a try to get back into some sort of normal
Mhm.
day-to-day life. How hard was that, with knowing that you shared chores, or he had his jobs and you had yours, and now all of a sudden it's all on you? Was there anything that he did that now you had to do, that you just really had a hard time with?
Yeah, so after that 6 months, when I think my brain was protecting itself from the shock, and kind of it was seeping in that this really happened. And he's really not here. He's dead. I had made the decision so we were living on the side of a mountain, snow, snow, snow. I just couldn't deal with it. So I moved the boys and I down into the town, which was about 10, 15 miles away. Um, it was a few days after his memorial service. So
Wow.
we had a lot of help, and they moved us into a smaller home. I didn't have to plow, snow, anything like that. So we moved into a rental there. We had our house up for sale. We had our house up for sale prior to him dying. So,
Hmm.
Interesting.
um, but so I moved the boys down because I wanted to finish out their school year there, and I made the decision to move back to Portland,
Hmm.
um, which is where my support and my
Right.
family and friends were. I was working full time this whole time, so I
Right.
got a 5 week stress leave, I guess, paid.
That's really lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to fill out all these forms. I had to get a
Yeah.
note from my doctor. It was basically short-term disability
Right, right.
is what I was put on for 5 weeks. And then I go back to work five weeks later. So again, I'm working with legal documents. That was my job.
Yeah.
I don't know if I screwed anything up. I didn't get any feedback that I did, but again, I'm just kind of going through the motions. But once I get back to Portland 6 months after he died, that's when the work really began of I'm falling apart basically. I'm trying to work full time, parent full time, pay the bills, grocery shop, get everything done, and I am exhausted. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm falling apart. And I decided that I needed some help with this. So I got a grief counselor. I started working with a grief counselor that was really, really helpful
Good for
just
you.
to help me understand what I was feeling and thinking. And because there's so much judgment that goes on, like, wow, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or
Right,
shouldn't I be crying more? Or
right.
so yeah, I did some really hard work there and I decided to leave my job about a year and a half after Dave died. At that point, I was trying to figure out how can I just be a full-time parent? This is my most important job. I only have a few years
Right.
with our kids. I'm the only one, so I can't do a good job of it if I'm also, spending a lot of my time and energy
Yeah. So
at
they
my
were
job.
how old were they at this point then?
They were 10 and 13 when Dave died.
Okay.
Um, so they were about 11 and 14 when I was able to
Yeah.
quit my job. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Universe, help me figure out a way,
Right, right.
monetarily and everything. So I was able to make it work. And so I was a full-time mom for about 3 years until I really felt like I had a handle on whoever really has a handle on things. But I
Right,
Right,
felt
right,
like
right,
right.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was able to just really just be a mom and be their
Yeah.
mom. And
Yeah.
Hmm.
so that was really awesome. And then I went back to work after
Yeah.
like 3 years when things felt a little more stable. But yeah, I mean, it was a really good decision. I just had to really listen to my gut and like
Yeah.
what do I need to do here? I don't know how to get I'm here at A. I don't know how to get to Z, but
Right.
Yeah.
just I have to take little baby steps and just listen to my gut as to what direction I need to go. And
Yeah.
so,
There's really
yeah.
no other choice. There's really no other
Mm-mm.
option. I think that was so one of the things that surprised me the most too about um, having this experience, the focus that I was able to have of just what is important. That's it.
Mhm.
Everything else is extemporaneous. Like these are the absolute
Mhm.
decisions I have to make. Everything else is nonsense. And it was like I'd never really had that kind of pure focus on
Mhm.
what is real and important. And I found that to be one of the gifts
For
that
sure.
that I feel is given in that experience.
Mhm.
So I mean, obviously I don't wish that had happened, but it did, and I'm grateful that that was one of the
Mhm.
gifts that it
Yeah.
was that I felt like I was able to receive.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really great point because, we are widowed here, you
Hmm.
two and I, and the folks who are listening here. That's a hard concept to think about like this, whether it's a gift or a byproduct or something. It was a real leveler for me to
Yeah,
really get rid of the BS and focus on what's really important in life. So all the BS went away, all the nonsense. I don't care about anything else except me and my kids.
yeah,
And that's
that's it.
it. So it was
Hmm.
so easy for everything else to fall away. And that byproduct or that gift is still with me because I don't really care about a lot of the nonsense anymore. You
Yeah.
know, it just
Right,
doesn't like what used to really bother me before. It's like, whatever. You know,
right,
I've been through hell. So
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
So all this other stuff is really just not that important. So
right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I know we're kind of on the tail end of your journey here, but I want to take just a little step back. You wrote a book about your experience. There's several things online of, you've been guests on other podcasts, and you've written a few blog posts about your
Mhm.
experience. And one of those I read that at some point there was some anger. You had some real anger.
Mhm.
I'm curious, was that anger directed at Dave? Like, at any time did you feel like you were upset with him because he left you with this
Mhm.
situation and there were no plans, or was it just life in general, anger at God?
Mhm.
What was that? What was happening there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was a great guy. I was really angry that he left us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know it was not his choice. I know whatever happened happened, but yeah, I was like, what in the hell? Like, really? And I was angry that my kids, for me, I'm an adult. I can understand that concept of, dying, but my kids, they just got their dad, they just got stability. They had already lost their birth father had died.
Mm,
Um, of a drug overdose. And
yeah.
so they like, what is wrong with this picture? I was so angry that this happened to my kids. Like, I thought they were golden. I mean, Dave and I both thought that life is good now, kids. We got you. This is cool.
Mhm.
Everything that happened before, none of that bad stuff is going to happen again. And, you know, that is not how life works. But yeah, I was really angry. I was
Yeah.
angry at him, at myself, at the universe, at
Yeah.
the person in front of me at the grocery store who was complaining about something stupid.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was angry at watching dads holding their little son's hands walking down the street,
Mhm.
yeah, oh, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a part of this. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And,
Hmm.
I think everybody goes through that to some degree. And I'm curious, do you feel like if you had spent more time maybe playing that what if game and maybe planning, and you had a financial plan and you had legal documents in place and you didn't have to go through that period of taking care of the business of death because it was really already pre-planned, would that have influenced, do you think, some of those emotions at all?
Sure. I think it would have influenced all of the emotions. I mean, we know that anger and sadness and loneliness and all that is part of this widowhood experience. And I think if I didn't have to focus so much on the business piece, like making sure all the forms were filled out correctly, what am I missing? What am I not missing? What do I need to do? Oh, I need to call the lawyer. I need to call my finance guy. I need to, you know, I don't know. Yeah, it definitely would have. I don't know. There's the loneliness piece of it. It's like, why do I have to do this alone? Why
Mhm.
didn't we, you know, talk
Mm,
about this?
Mhm.
It just all those questions and I'm cycling through all the emotions as I'm doing all this paperwork and as I'm doing all this stuff. Like, I can't
yeah.
believe I have to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. It would have, but I think also again, the part of that business of doing all those things, part of that did keep me from grieving, but I don't think I was really ready to grieve yet. So I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
it was a distraction for
Right.
sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
So in a
Mhm.
way that was kind of, I guess, good, but
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
um but again, not in the right frame of mind to be
Yeah.
doing things like that. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
mhm.
I wonder if, like, with people who generally are um people who are the, not caretakers, the people who work, who have to,
Yeah, the doers.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I wonder, and I've never, I don't know that I've ever asked you this. Like, you went to work. How soon did you go straight back to work? And do you feel like that was helpful because it was a distraction, or helpful that it just gave you something to do so that you weren't just quote unquote wallowing? Or
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
Most of my kids were older. Three of my four kids were out of the house. My last one was in high school, And so, I didn't have to be there to, do, make
Mhm.
meals and do laundry and get them, shuttle them all over the place. That, those are things that they could do themselves. And so, yeah, so for me, going back to work that was, a distraction, I guess,
Mhm.
something that kind of jump started getting into a reality that,
Mhm.
I didn't want it. I didn't choose it, but
Mhm.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
And, I had to figure it out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just wonder what that, if that, I mean, not being a grief counselor or anything like that, I just wonder which is the more healthy thing to do, to like really sit in the feelings immediately, or kind of allow it, give yourself a minute and
Yeah.
then let it happen. Or because if you don't let it happen, that's when you get sick. Like that, the
Right.
terrible things happen.
Yeah.
If you make a conscious choice not to grieve, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But if delaying it just so you can get up in the morning and get your kids to school and all that stuff, if that is helpful
Yeah. I
in the
mean, it's
grief
hard to
process.
say. It's hard to say because I really understand my own
Your journey, yeah,
experience.
Mhm.
right.
So, and it just happened how it had to happen.
Right.
Um, I don't know. Like I said, I had 5 weeks off for a stress leave, but I didn't grieve during that time. I was,
Right.
you know, going around moving stuff from one house to another, doing, I wasn't really processing. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think you should get like a year off
I
Or
right.
more.
or
I know.
something, it's like, I don't know, but that's all they could give me. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I took it. I don't think I was effective at all in my job.
Mhm. Right.
Um, and I think they were very kind. My work situation was,
Yeah.
I had been there for quite a while. So
Yeah.
they kind of stuck it out with me. But again, I don't think I was super effective at what I was doing. Um, yeah.
Well, clearly everybody's experience is going to be different. And I know
Hmm.
Katie and I have talked a lot about, we had the experience of a terminal illness. So in a lot of ways we saw it coming. We knew it was coming and we knew it was going to happen. And we talk about how would our grief experience have been different if it was more like yours, where it was like all of a sudden one day they're there and the next
Hmm.
day they're not. And so, everybody's going to be a little bit different.
Hmm.
And but we obviously, with what we're doing with Prepare Your Affairs, obviously feel like so much of your experience after a death um, will be influenced by your level of preparation before. And so that's what, we hope that these interviews with you and other
Hmm.
widows will help people understand that is, how you benefited from whatever ways you were prepared, and how you weren't, in the ways that you weren't prepared. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing your story. It's
Hmm.
an incredible story. And I know that you're not shy about sharing it. Like I said, you've been out there and you've shared it in a number of different mediums. And so tell us a little bit about your book, a little bit about
Yeah.
what you're doing now, and how you're helping other widows.
Yeah, thank you. So I wrote a book about my experience adopting my kids. The very first sentence is like it describes the minute I met them, saw them in person. And then it goes on to kind of share about our experience as a family, growing together as a family, and then Dave's death and the aftermath of that. And I just needed to get that out on paper. It was so cathartic to write it. I had to get it out. Um, I don't know about you two, but Dave died in 2011, and there was not a lot of stories. There were not a lot of podcasts. I don't even think
Nope.
podcasts were a thing. There
Nope.
was really, I could not find anything or anyone that I felt like I could relate to. So I decided to write my story so that somebody else could read it and maybe not feel so alone. And then a couple years ago, I met some really, really neat ladies, and we formed the Widow Squad. And so we it's a membership, a monthly membership. We also have some courses that we're creating to help widows rebuild their lives, because we're basically creating something that we didn't have at the time. Just like you two are doing,
Yeah.
something that maybe you didn't have, that you thought, okay, I'm basically creating this for me and to help other
Right.
people. So,
Yeah.
Right.
so yeah, so that's what I do now. I'm
Okay.
a co-founder of the Widow Squad. I also have we have a podcast as well, Widow Squad podcast. Um, so yeah, I'm just out there, just again, I'll tell my story because that's what I craved. I wanted to hear stories from other people so I could either, maybe they're a couple steps ahead of me, and I could
Mhm.
maybe see myself, or if they're doing it or if they're here, I could I could maybe get there too, or
Yeah.
get
Right.
Yeah.
get, feel like I have some hope, that I'm not always going to feel this way or feel stuck or,
Right.
sad my entire life. Yeah.
And
And
if any,
there's, oh, go ahead.
I was just say, if anybody's listening that is interested in the Widow Squad and what you're doing, they're a widow themselves. What do they? How can they reach out to you? How can they connect to that?
Yeah. So widowsquad.com. Go to the website there, and we have a lot of free resources. You can go to the freebies tab. Just download we have a free guide, some free videos. Just basically, we're trying to answer the questions that that everybody, that widows have, based on our experience. So, and then listen to the podcast. It's the Widow Squad podcast, and there's a link to the podcast on our website as well.
How often do
Yeah.
you post a podcast?
We've been doing it weekly. We took a little hiatus during was it November? No, maybe December. During the
Yeah.
holidays. We
Yeah.
took a few weeks off, but we put out a podcast every Thursday. Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
good for you for I
Yeah.
mean, this is a devastating experience, and
Yeah.
you've made the choice, the conscious choice to turn it around and to,
Yeah.
make something good out of it, and to strengthen your children, strengthen yourself, and strengthen other widows.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
that. Thank you for making that choice for the rest of us.
Yeah.
That's
For
really
sure.
great.
Well, I appreciate that. And you too. I mean, you didn't wake up one day and say, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna help other widows. And when you're in second grade, you didn't aspire to
Right.
this. It just, like, probably
No,
wanted to be an astronaut or something like
Yeah.
that. But
not
that's
one of the
what,
options in second grade.
yeah, yeah. But this is what it is. We've kind of
Mhm.
fallen into this because we've experienced something really extraordinary, and painful, and we want to just help others along the way. So I
Yeah.
Yeah.
appreciate what you're doing too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you again for sharing your story, and we'll look forward. I know we've worked in different capacities
Mhm.
the last year or so. We look
Mhm.
forward to maybe future chances to work with you, and good luck with the Widow Squad. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.